All right, hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you how to build the best forward-facing sonar jig for you. You can use whatever hook you want. We're going to start by taking some of the best tungsten out there, the Queen Tackle Tungsten heads. I'm going to teach you how to get the tungsten off in a usable way so that you can put those beads on whatever hook you want. For me, I love a BKK 9050. I think it's the best. I got these in a 4-aught. I just got done making these for Cletus. If you guys know cameraman Cletus on YouTube, him and I used to hang out a lot. Best year of my life was when Clint and I were traveling together. So we just got done making Clint a little birthday box. So we're gonna use the 9050 for the big hook. And then I got this sneaky little guy in a 1-aught that I get from China that you guys are gonna love. So stay tuned. I'm going to take you through all these steps in how I built Cletus, cameraman Cletus, his birthday present. Stay tuned.
All right, I'm over at BKK with Joe, and we're going to talk about some new hooks.
All right, guys, before we dive into this, I'm going to as quick as I can, take you through some of the tools that are necessary. You're going to need a big metal pot. All right, I like this to catch molten lead when we're melting lead off jig heads. I use it to drop hot hooks in as soon as I'm done pulling them apart. You need a good throwaway just metal pot. I actually got this out of the basement of my house. It wasn't being used for anything. It was just sitting in an old unfinished basement. All right, that's number one important thing. Number two, 2 pairs of pliers. A pair that's really good at staying closed. I like to hold them in my left hand so I don't have to squeeze that hook and I still get a really good grip. And then a pair I can manipulate really, really well with my right hand for when I'm pulling some extra lead off while it's still hot, when I'm pulling a ball head off of the Queen Tungsten, a pair that I can manipulate, I really, really like too. All right, so 2 good sets of pliers. Another thing, 2 good sets of scissors. One I use for these threads whenever I wrap thread on a different color for each size of hook. My 1/4 ounce are always yellow, my 3/16 are always red, my 3/8 are always blue. I want a really good pair of scissors to cut that thread. You're gonna see once we get into this why having a good pair versus just a regular pair of scissors for like cutting construction paper, you're gonna see why a good pair is really important. I think I got 2 pairs for $12 off Amazon. This pair I use just for cutting lead, all right? I never cut the thread with this one, and I never cut lead with my other pair. Copper handles, in my case, are my lead ones. Silver are my thread ones. I have a variety of different size lead wire. You're gonna see we're gonna wrap lead wire down the shank of our hook to try to balance out our entire presentation. I have different sizes. This is 0.015. I have 0.020, 0.025, and 0.030. So 3 different sizes. Just depends on what size jig head I'm making. I have a bunch of bobbins. This bobbin, this is pretty cool. I spread this one out so that it holds my lead wire, but it's not too stiff now. Since it's spread apart, it's not so stiff that I can't like pull the wire out of it really easily. We'll set that down. My thread bobbins, they're a little smaller. See how that distance is smaller together? That kind of makes it so it's a little bit stiffer, harder for me to pull the thread out. So if I want to kind of leave that hanging from my vise while I kind of grab my scissors to go trim my thread really close, that way the thread just isn't flying off of the bobbin. All right, so we'll fix that back up later. Show you guys real quick this. I just have this C-clamp to the table here. This is our vise. That's gonna hold our jig head. We'll take a look at that a little more later. All right. I have a bunch of tungsten beads I've already removed. I like to put them back in the package. That's the right size. But the great thing about Queen Tackle is he already has the sizes printed on the beads. So if you ever forget which sizes they are, you can just look. 3.5 grams, I know, is always 1/8. All right, 2.7, 3/32. 10.5, 3/8. All right. So Jeff Queen over at Queen Tackle, he does a great job of labeling all his stuff. Some other things we're gonna look at. We're gonna make today a bait keeper out of 30-pound test fluorocarbon. So I just have this really junky fluorocarbon I had left over. We're just gonna use that as kind of our bait keeper. Again, we have our different size threads. Then probably the two game changers that you're gonna need. All right, is this UV resin. I got this stuff on Amazon. It's from a company called Let's Resin. All right, really easy to find. And then the most important part, our UV torch. All right, you have to buy a replaceable battery for this high quality one, but it instantly causes this resin to dry almost that fast when you just shine the light on it. All right, so really, really important. You get yourself a good UV flashlight. You can buy really cheap ones. I really like this one. It allows me to kind of change how concentrated or how wide the beam coming out is. And I find it gives me a really good hardening process once that UV light hits that UV resin. So the less resin and the torch, real important. Then I just have some toothpicks. I do have some cleaning supplies, just a toothbrush, some flossers. That helps me kind of clean any excess resin out of the tungsten beads after we pop them off. But I think that pretty well covers everything I've got. I mean, we have our jig heads. These are the ones we're going to use today. We're going to heat up some silent chasers, and then we're going to heat up this ball head. These silent chaser football jigs come with a 0.8x hook. I love that hook. It's really, really awesome. We're going to heat up some 1/0s of those today, and then we're also going to heat up some 1/0s in this ball head BKK hook that I get from China that I love. We have some 9061 BKK hooks from Barlow's, and then I believe I already told you guys I made Cletus some 4/0 BKK 9050s. And those are going to be awesome for fishing a 7-inch Sakamata shad. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to put all this stuff to work. All right, guys, step one. If you're not buying hooks from a place like Barlow's or what's that place that Bill Lowen, I think it's LureNet. He's always promoting them. If you're not buying hooks already ready to go with just a 90-degree bend already in them, and you want to steal your hook off of your favorite jig, first we have to melt the lead off. All right, so I'm going to take you through how to do it. All you need, a little torch and 2 sets of pliers. All right, I'm going to show you why 2 is important. We're going to start out holding these with 1, but if a little bit of lead kind of gets stuck on there, you're going to want to quick kind of like shed it off, kind of like you're shucking an ear of corn. You want to quick get that lead off while it's hot. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do that really quick, and then I'll show you how to get the tungsten off your pre-existing Queen LS Jigheads. All right, guys, step 1. The jig head that you choose, I highly recommend that it not be painted or powder coated. You want to get one that's in its raw form. That way you're not dealing with a lot of fumes. It's not real hard to kind of melt that lead, because just this raw lead itself exposed takes very, very minimal heat. You want to avoid pointing the blue flame of the torch right on the hook itself. We don't want to mess up the tempering and hardening process that this hook went through. So we're going to actually use indirect heat. We're going to just heat the outside and the bottom edge of this jig head. All right, don't put the flame right on the hook if you can avoid it. All right. quick, grab your second set of pliers, shuck that corn. All right, see how it slid all that lead down to the edge? Now it's really easy to get off. We're just gonna let it cool. We're gonna do 1 or 2 more while we kind of wait for that one just to cool off, even though I could probably pick up the hook right now with my fingers. That lead still is a little hot, the lead itself, but the hook, we didn't put direct heat on the hook, so we weren't messing with its integrity or its tempering in any way. She should be okay. Now we're just gonna use our regular old pliers, and we're just gonna try to work that lead off real carefully. Again, we're trying to protect the integrity of this hook. So we don't wanna clamp down on the hook real hard. We don't wanna do anything that's gonna mess with the integrity of this hook. We wouldn't do that with something we're gonna fish with, and this is gonna be a very, very important tool in our arsenal. We're trying to create, in a inexpensive way, the best jig head to get the best performance out of it. So we don't wanna mess with this. It's gonna be hard. We're gonna try to just use our pliers to kind of pinch some of that hanging lead. Got some of it off pretty easy. Oh, the rest just came off with our fingers. We got a nice, clean jig head. Looks like there's a little bit more in there. But she is pretty clean. Not too bad. Let's just do the other 3 and we'll get going on how to get the tungsten off next. All right, guys, next step, I'm gonna show you how to torch the tungsten off of a Queen Tackle LS sonar tungsten jig head. All right, not the rolling jig head. The only time I use the rolling jig head is when I use the 3/32 size. All of the others, I like to use the regular strolling, or the regular round LS tungsten jig head. All right, so I'm gonna show you what that looks like. We'll show you a couple different angles, and I'll kind of try to talk you through it as I'm doing it. I think these are adhered to the hook with some type of a quick dry like JB weld. It's not a resin. They heat up till they're red hot. We're actually gonna point the torch right at the slot where they're adhered on, and we're gonna try to heat that material up red hot. If we can, we want to avoid getting the ball head red hot, because what that does is it causes some discoloration. It'll no longer kind of be this silver color. It'll start to get kind of bluish looking on you. I have a lot already done, and they take on kind of a black, dark purple, kind of a bluish hue if you overheat the ball head. But sometimes you have to in order to get that JB weld to get red hot so that you can pull them apart. Again, we're gonna use 2 sets of pliers, one to hold the hook, and as soon as we get everything red hot, we're gonna switch to our second pair to try to pull off the tungsten head. Sometimes they fall right off really easy, but that's a rarity. Most of the time, we've really gotta pull. All right, I'll show you what it looks like. You can just leave it rolling. All right, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to aim the tip of the blue flame right at the 90-degree slot that's between the 90-degree bend in the hook and my hand on this inside edge of the hook. Oh goodness, we got one to fall right off. We don't get that lucky very often. You can actually see here the resin is still sitting in our 90-degree bend of the hook. The ball head just fell right off. All right, we're gonna do another one for you just so you can kind of see. Most of them don't go that way. Next step, we're gonna resin our tungsten bead to our hook. All right, it's kind of a 2-step process. What I like to do, tiny little dot of UV resin on a piece of cardboard, what I always do is I save the old piece that I've done used time and time again, and I just use the UV light to kind of harden it out. I don't want this stuff seeping into the cardboard. What I then do is I'm just going to take a toothpick and I'm going to take a tiny little dot of it and put it in the 90-degree slot that's in this bead. I'm not trying to fill it up. I'm literally just putting a tiny amount in there. I mean, super, super small amount. I'm going to slide the hook in, and I'm going to make sure it kind of centers itself in the middle. All right. I don't want it kind of off to one side or the other. I'm going to hit it with the light. Dries that quick. All right, then just going to go back to my toothpick. I'm going to fill in the rest of that 90-degree slot. Then hit it with the light. She's done. Now that we have our hook resined to our tungsten bead, we're going to go ahead, we're going to put it in our vise, clamp that down nice and tight. I like to use 0.020 size lead wire to start this process. I'm going to kind of make a collar for that Sakamata shad or that Driftfry to sit on. I do use 0.015 when I do a 3/32 or a 1/8 ounce jig head. But when I move to 3/16 on up, I like to start my collar with 0.020 size lead wire, and I'm just going to do about a dozen wraps, and then I'm going to cut it off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, trying to keep those wraps as tight together as possible. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, 12 wraps around. Cut the top off, that excess end, cut the bottom off. All I'm going to do then is pop it out and kind of just rub those nice and smooth, those ends. All right, we're going to set it off to the side while we do the rest of them. I'm going to do 2 or 3 more, and then I'll show you the next step after that. All right, next step's real easy. With our lead wrapped kind of on the middle of the shank of our hook, all we're going to do, I like to kind of just make sure there's plenty of room in between the lead and the tungsten ball head. I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of excess glue that I have sitting out from one of our previous steps. Kind of just rub it up and down in that bare spot. Push my lead all the way down to the tungsten ball. Get my light out and just kind of make sure that tiny bit of excess that got pushed around is now kind of holding those lead wraps there in place. All right, that's the beginning of our collar, of our bait keeper collar. All right, I'm going to do that to all the rest of them, and then we'll go into making our actual bait keeper with our 30-pound fluoro. All right. All right, guys. Next step, we're going to add our thread. I like to use red anytime I do 3/16. That's just how I've done it. I like the red thread with the 3/16. That's how I laid out the Cameraman Cletus ones. I'll show you again real quick. 3/32 are orange. We have pink are 1/8, red are 3/16, yellow are 1/4, and our blue threaded ones are 3/8. All right. So we're going to use red on these 3/16 tungstens, and then I have my bobbin for my lead wire loaded up with 0.025. That's what size we're going to use after we lay down our fluorocarbon bait keeper. All right, so here's how I do it. We're gonna take our red thread. I'm gonna go around 6 times. I think that's about 6. I'm gonna flop it back over. Of course, whenever you're filming, it doesn't go as smoothly. 1, 2, 3 more going back towards our tungsten head. I'm gonna get my silver cutters for cutting thread, snip that off nice and close, do maybe 1 or 2 times more around. Now I'm gonna take my 30-pound fluorocarbon. You can kind of pinch a loop in it with your fingers if you want, but what I like to do is real softly, I put it in the groove of my pliers and I just pinch it softly. All right, that just creases it just a tiny minuscule amount. All right, I'm gonna lay it on my collar. I'm gonna go around about 10 times, 2, 3, 4, trying to keep it straight, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. Kind of look down it, make sure it's lined up the way you want it. Now I'm gonna use my fingernail and my finger to pull it back. I laid my bait keeper really flat to start for those first 10 wraps. I'm gonna pull it back and now try to get 10 around this front side. Maybe only 5, somewhere in between 5 and 10. That should stand it up quite a bit. Now look, it's pointing straight up instead of laying flat against the shank. I'm just going to do a few more just to kind of start tipping it back about 45 degrees. All right. Now I'm going to take my good cutters, my thread cutters. I'm going to figure out which one was kind of first. I don't want them wrapped around in a circle. I'm going to cut as close as I can without cutting the keeper. Cut the end off. Cut the main line off. All right. Now I'm just going to finish trying to make some red wraps around that keeper. And then I'm going to do my last 2 wraps on the shank of the hook, then 3 half hitches. All right, I'll take you through it. Just covering up the rest of the fluorocarbon. 2 onto the shank, 1, 2. 1 half hitch. I'm going to pull it nice and tight. Slide it in with my fingernail. 2 half hitches. Nice and tight. Slide it in with my fingernail. And a 3rd one. On it nice and tight. Grab my thread cutters. Now I'm not going to get super, super close because I don't want that half hitch to come undone. All right, cut that off. I'm going to come in with my .025 size lead wire. I'm going to see if I can't fit 10 wraps on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice, it left us a little room. I'm going to get my copper handled ones, cut my lead wire, cut it off here as well. Again, just like I did before when I made the initial collar, I'm going to use my fingers to kind of turn that down, even use my fingernail if I have to get those ends nice and rounded. I don't want anything sharp kind of hanging up. Now I'm going to push my lead up against my red collar. Don't push way too hard. You can ruin that keeper you just made. Then I'm going to come in with my UV resin. And I'm going to just put some dots on this top side. I'll show you guys some close-ups here in a minute of what this looks like. Work my way around. It's a lot warmer in here than it is in my apartment, so this stuff's got a little more liquid property than it usually does when I'm working with it. Just gonna hit it real quick. trying never to overdo it. If you overdo it, it looks bad. I wonder if you can see it really good with the light on it. I wonder if that helps a little. We'll show you the chesty footage too. And then I'm just going to put a tiny bit on the end to close it and make it so you can slide that drift fry or that Sakamata on there a little bit easier. And there we have a finished product for you. With our 5.3 already printed on there by Jeff Queen, our 0.8x 1/0 Silent Chaser football hook. That's your scoping head right there. Once they bite it, they're not coming off. That's my baby. That's how I do it. So that's all it is, guys. Now you have the best forward-facing jig head you could possibly own. And that's because you have the best tungsten on the market, the super hard, super smooth tungsten from the Queen tackle head. It's just got that slotted tungsten jig head that I taught you how to get off of its original hook, resin it onto its new hook, and you can put it on the hook that is best for you. Again, I'm a BKK guy. I like the BKK 9050. I think that's pretty much what we're using in that Silent Chaser football head is the 9050. They do make a 9055, really hard to get a hold of right now. Those OEM hooks are particularly hard to find. Again, Lure Parts Online might have the 9055. I did get the 9061, which is an awesome hook too. I've used that in the bigger sizes. Cletus is getting himself some 9050s. Soak-Up has gotten some 9061s. But this hook that looks really simple or similar to the new Cypher jig head that Cody Meyer put out, I think this is the way to go. I caught 99 out of the first 100 bites I had on this thing. I think I lost number, what was it, 78, 79, Michelle? Somewhere in there. But yeah, so I caught over 70 before I lost one on this hook, fishing the drift fry and the Sakamata shad. They're really the only two I use. If I want to go down to a 4-inch, I will throw Cliff Pace's Black Label hover shad, or his little player hover, or little player shad. If I'm going small, I will go to those, but more often than not, I'm throwing a 5-inch Sakamata, 6-inch Sakamata, 7-inch Sakamata, or the 5.2-inch drift fry. The 6-inch Sakamata and the 5.2 drift fry are my two favorites. And I'm throwing that on this little 1/0. I love it. The only time I ever go to the big, the 4/0 9050, like we saw with Cletus's hooks, is I go to the 4/0 there with the 7-inch sock, but that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to wrap up a few more. I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I check them every day. See you guys again soon. Peace. We got him. Oh, it is a dandy.
I'm Joe LaBarbera, and welcome to the Outer Realm.